Greetings, YouTube. I recently found myself considering American prosperity. And I think you can make a reasonable argument that the most prosperous era in living memory in America for the vast majority of American people were the post-war years, 1945 and 1965. The era that is classically thought of as the baby boom era, where the children born in that 20-year span are considered the baby boomers, which technically I am a baby boomer, which always seems strange to me. I always think of baby boomers as the children of the service people in the era of those that served in World War II, as opposed to just this 20-year block. But my father was old enough to have, had a child in that era, and that's technically what I am, a baby boomer. And I think that America had three things going for it that helped to support our American prosperity. The first was there were high taxes on the wealthy during the Eisenhower era. In fact, they were at 91%. We had regulations on corporate America, and in particular regulations on the financial sector, and all of those have been put in place after the Depression of 1929, the actual crash. And then the government just stepped in and said, hey, we should probably put regulations in place to prevent this from happening again. And the last is that we had very strong labor during that 20-year time period. Now, as these three situations changed, as regulations on corporations and the financial sector in particular went down, as the tax rates on the uber wealthy went down, and we're talking the people in the 2% range, and in particular the people that are in the absolute top 0.1% range, the 0.1% of Americans at the very pinnacle of the financial elite. As those rates went down, and as the power of labor was lessened, our economy began to tank. And this particular situation has just continued as the tax rates went down further and further. You had lots of boom and bust cycles as the corporate regulations and financial regulations have become slack. More and more people are investing in much more risky ventures, and they're getting away with doing things that at one time they could not have gotten away with, putting the American economy at risk, gambling with the American economy, making sure that the profits are private, but the risk, that belongs to the public over there. The bailout that we went through a few years ago, or technically I guess I'm still involved in. And of course, labor has been absolutely gutted in America since 1945. I mean, labor has almost no power whatsoever compared to what it did at one time. And the latest shenanigans going on with absolute direct out-and-out union busting in the last 6 months are a fine example of that. I want to return to American prosperity. There are things about the era of 1945 to 1965 that we do not need. But we kind of need the return to prosperity, a return to a nice, healthy middle class. And what we need to achieve that is to return the tax rates on the wealthy to higher levels, to put restrictions and regulations and guidance and controls on corporate America and the financial sector, and to make sure that American labor is strong. Yes, these are liberal, progressive ideas, but we need them. We had them in the past. They did wonders for us. We've lost them to our detriment. We need to return them. I realize this is going to be unpopular, particularly with conservative politicians of all stripes, Republican, Democrat, Tea Party, Libertarian. They're all going to be upset saying I'm trying to destroy America. But funny, when we had these things, high tax rates on the wealthy, corporate controls, and strong labor, our nation was at its most healthy. And since we've lost them, we are at our worst. So I'm willing to try returning to these things in the hopes of getting the benefits back, of in strengthening our prosperity, of making sure the middle class is strong and vibrant and growing, as opposed to weak and being undermined at every turn and slowly withering away. I'm going to paraphrase the actor Alan Alda, who is a liberal progressive to the core. And conservative politicians could do the right thing and make the changes that move America forward. They just choose not to. And for me, that's the big difference between conservatives and liberal progressives. The liberal progressives want to move America forward, whereas the conservative politicians want to return us to the 19th century.